When Liverpool and Real Madrid were scheduled to face each other in the first leg of the Champions League knockout stages, football fans everywhere were eagerly anticipating what this classic matchup would bring this time. The two European giants have a long history of playing against each other, and this time Liverpool was seeking some personal revenge after losing both the 2018 and last year's Champions League final to the club from Madrid. The world was watching as the two teams kicked off at Anfield in front of a roaring home crowd. However, no one could have predicted what would happen during the next 90 minutes of football. Liverpool started the game off exactly as planned, going up 2-0 within the first 15 minutes. The fans in the stands were quietly hoping for a blowout that night. And well, they wouldn't be entirely wrong. After starting the game brilliantly, the game completely shifted in Real Madrid's favor. The Spanish superpower tied the game before halftime and then fully took control in the second half. They scored 3 more goals in front of the shocked home crowd and won the game 2-5. Real Madrid showed the world why they call themselves the Kings of Europe and made it close to impossible for Liverpool to advance to the next round of the Champions League. At first glance, the score sounds like the game was an absolute massacre. A game where Real dominated after the first 15 minutes and Liverpool didn't stand a chance. However, if you take a closer look at the advanced statistics, that isn't entirely the case. Here you see some stats from the Champions League game at Anfield. One stat sheet belongs to Liverpool, the other to Real Madrid. They don't differ much from each other. Can you guess which stat sheet belongs to which team? Yes, that's right. During their blowout against Liverpool at Anfield, Real Madrid had less possession and even fewer expected goals than their opponent Liverpool. The latter is particularly interesting to look at. Expected goals, or XG, is a stat used to measure the probability of a shot going in and resulting in a goal. Every shot gets a probability score between 1 and 0. You can add up the numbers for each shot taken in the game to get a team's total expected goals. While some people might think this stat is useless, I would disagree. I think the stat is very useful in showing one of Real Madrid's best qualities, their efficiency. For example, Liverpool had 1.97 expected goals in their game against Madrid, and they ended up scoring 2. In other words, they did about as well as you would expect in finishing their chances over the entire game. In that same game, Real Madrid had 1.64 expected goals, but they ended up scoring 5 goals. That's insane! Even more so because this wasn't the first time Madrid scored more goals than they were expected to during a Champions League game. In fact, it's kind of their thing. Take a look at Real's Champions League run last season, for example. A run which included some of the craziest games in recent memory. After the group stage, Madrid first played one of the favorites to win the tournament in PSG. Things weren't looking good for them until a hat-trick from Benzema saved them in the second half of the return game. But even in those 2 games combined, Real once again had less expected goals than PSG, but they still advanced to the next round. They then faced off against reigning Champions League winners Chelsea in the quarterfinals. The first match against Chelsea saw Real Madrid win 3-1 in the first game in London. They almost completely messed it up in their home game in Madrid, however, until Karim Benzema saved them in extra time. Once again, over those 2 games, Real had less expected goals than their opponent. This time, Chelsea had 2 expected goals more than Real Madrid, but still lost over 2 games. And it was the same story in the thrilling semi-final against Manchester City, where Real won 6-5 on aggregate over 2 games. Once again having less expected goals than opposition, and as well in last year's final against Liverpool, where they won 1-0 to take home the Champions League trophy. And this highlights Real Madrid's qualities. They are fantastic defensively, making sure they often concede less goals than what would be expected. At the same time, they are rapid in the counterattack and deadly in front of the goal. This results in them scoring more than they are expected to in a lot of games. Tomorrow, Real Madrid will play the second leg at home against Liverpool. Real is not in their best form domestically, as they are in a difficult situation in the Copa del Rey and slowly losing sight of Barcelona in the league. Liverpool, on the other hand, have recently won a whopping 7-0 game against Manchester United and have a history of coming back from impossible situations. However, the chance of them overcoming a 3-goal deficit in an away game against Real is very low. Regardless of the outcome, it should be a good game. We are either going to see one of the craziest comebacks in Champions League history if Liverpool somehow manages to overcome their defeat and make it to the next round, or we'll get to see Real Madrid display more of their trademark rock-solid defense and lightning-fast counterattacks. In the likely case that Madrid makes it to the next round, it will be interesting to see how far they can make it this season. Because on a night where Real Madrid is playing at full strength and everything is clicking, I don't know if there are many teams who can stop them.